how men work out their traumas. It's like
you don't talk about it.
No, sometimes you may talk about it, but even when you do, it's like, yeah, I got over it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's like you got to keep going.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong if you didn't get over it and you feel you need help. Like get a therapist or talk to a friend or talk to a family member. But it's like with most stuff, we talked about this before. Like let's say a trauma is something like if the worst trauma in the world was a 10 out of 10. Let's say you have something that's a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Don't fucking talk about it. Don't cry about it.
What do you mean? Don't victimize yourself.
Don't cry about 4 out of 10. It's like, man up and bury that shit.
You got to keep going. That's the bottom line, dude. And I know, Beardo, I was like, I don't want to talk about that. I'll touch on it really briefly. I was married with a chick. We had a baby together. We were together for 7 years. And then come to find out that while I was gone in Europe, she banged the guy I was bartending with. He got her pregnant. And I raised that boy until he was 5. And then after a paternity test, found out it wasn't my kid.
Insane, man. You told us
violence
that.
The violence. And that's what it was all around that kind of era. But that's the thing is like, don't let that completely control your life. I'm now married to a beautiful woman with a 5-month-old daughter, happy as can be.
Let's go.
Happy as can be. So like, don't ever think it's like, oh my God, that's the end of it. Trust me, losing a kid like that is brutal. It's brutal, but just keep going.
Actually losing it.
Yeah.
He's actually losing the kid. That's crazy. And he told us that in private before, but I think it's fantastic to talk about it in a sense of inspiring other people and inspiring other men that may be bitching about something much lesser than that right now. And
it should be it should be like you said, a source of inspiration is that like, dude, it's never, there's so many dudes who like, they get cheated on by a girl. She bangs a guy. That's it. And then they break up and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to move on. Like, bitch, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Life's too short for that shit.
Yeah.
I've seen a much, much darker road and came out way on top. So dude, just keep trucking.
So a study came out that said most therapists are not good therapists and the bad therapists are really bad for people. When they make you linger on a problem, they start trying to use it as a way to justify your bad behavior. And then you start picking up on that. And then you start justifying your bad behavior. On top of that, like you said, they want to get paid. They need their patients to keep coming back.
Right.
So the good therapists, they know to have a revolving door. Whereas the bad therapists, they're like, how do I keep this person coming back?
Yeah, it's like
I was gonna say that's really up to the therapist because the concept's really cool. If you go like back to like Nietzsche and all those crazy insanely smart guys, like it's an extraordinary field of knowledge. But nowadays everything has been hijacked. The psychology field has been hijacked by weirdos, activists who are pushing a philosophy of high self-esteem at any cost. And that comes with the narrative of such things as you're perfect the way you are. It's the others that have to adjust to you. And so that surely fits with what you guys are describing in terms of bad therapists. But with an actually good therapist, you would go there to solve a problem. He would solve your problem and you'll be done with it. That's what a good therapist, an honest therapist ought to do. But nowadays that's being totally hijacked by weirdos. And I know that I talking from experience because when I was a teenager, I did therapy with 2 different therapists. One was a woman and the other was a man. The female one was like what you guys are describing. Like she would push me to keep talking about stuff, keep talking about problems and like linger on it. And it would just make everything worse. The guy one was pretty much hanging out with a bro, pretty much hanging out with you guys. It's like, so what? He would tell me that's the most, the phrase that he would speak the most. So what? it's a way to fix the problem, make you overcome it. And it's like there was a point when I was on my late teens that he was like, yeah, you're fine. You don't need me anymore. You're good to go.
The comparison for that is more often than not, a bad therapist will say, how did that make you feel? Whereas a good therapist will say, what do you think needs to be done to fix it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Coming up with a plan of action for you to actually act upon to solve that problem, and you will be done with it. That's what a good therapist ought to do.
I've really never heard anyone say, you know, oh, he overthinks everything as a compliment. That's not a compliment for men. Oh, he overthinks everything. And so, you know, that's why I've always been super adverse. I'm never averse, to like going to therapy, just because I don't like to overthink things. And the best advice I ever got was from my brother after that whole thing happened. He said, lean into it super hard. Lean into it. Like, feel those shitty feelings, lean into it, and then move on. Yeah. And like, I lived and died by that. Like, you have to live through it. You got to be able to do that. And I think, you know, the other part of the reason why I don't like therapy is that and I understand for some people it works. For me, it feels a little bit like a cop out, and I know I'll get some shit for this. But for me, it felt like I had to get through that thing myself. So on the tail end, I would be the better person for it. You know what I mean? Like, I worked through that shit. I got through it. I did it myself. And now I'm good, as opposed to like, oh man, I was in therapy for like 2 years for that, like trying to fix myself. You know what I mean?
And that's because they were unwilling to fix themselves. It wasn't until they got to a certain point that they were finally willing to admit, I have a problem and I need to do something about it. Because otherwise then you do get stuck in that loop of like, oh my God, I was, I had I'll say a friend, I'm going to keep this as anonymous as possible. They were abused as a child, terrible father, right? They hadn't thought about it for 20 years, and then they go to therapy, and then all of a sudden it's every day they're thinking about this.
Yes. Yeah.
And then suddenly they've got problems. Suddenly they've got, you know, they're like, oh, you know, well, I do this really nervous habit and it's tied to because I was abused as a child. And I'm like, what are you doing to actually like get over it? Because I thought you were over it. Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't until after 2.5 years in therapy that they finally just got fed up, and they're like, you know what? I think I finally figured it out, and they're completely normal again. Yeah. The therapy opened the wound again, made them worse for a while, and then now that they're done with therapy, they're like back to normal. In fact, like better than ever now that they're not dwelling on that. It's
so why do you keep ripping the scab off, dude? You rip the scab off and it's like tender and fleshy, and then you come back a week later and you rip it off and it's tender and fleshy, and you're thinking about it over and over and over again. Like, dude, it's not a requirement of you to think about your trauma 24/7.
Yeah,
it's not a requirement.
That's a bad therapist. I think that speaks more about the professional than the method. The method has a lot of merit to it, but as I said, the institutions have been hijacked, and there's tons of bad professionals out there. You need to be really careful. If you have something huge in your life that you cannot get over it, you don't have family to support you, don't have friends to talk about it, then sure, go to therapy, but make sure it's a good therapist. Don't be afraid to experimentate, do 1 or 2 sessions with one, and then go change, try another. Find a good one that helps you to overcome it, not to linger on it.
Bingo. Yeah. So after I went to therapy, after I broke up with my high school girlfriend, and we've talked about this on the show before. Every guy has that one, right? The first one that they just give everything up for. That it's just like, that is the one.
Your testosterone booster.
And then you guys break up and you cry about it. But then you tell yourself, never fucking again while I allow myself to get there. So I went to therapy, and I did have a good therapist. I went to a church, and I found a Christian counselor to do therapy with. And it was about maybe the
Was it a guy?
It was a guy. It was a guy.
That's important too.
Yes.
That's important because women tend to try to make you get over it the female way.
Right.
Like talking about
the
it.
Emotional
talking
way.
about
Process.
feelings.
The emotional way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because
a guy will do it the guy way.
Yeah, and I was talking with a friend the other day who's going through some stuff. Men are more based in logic and women are more based in emotion. That's just how it always is. So yes, for a man to have a male counselor or therapist is dire, man. That is so important. And the first one, why are you here? Tell me what happened. And then that's the first session. And then after that, it's straight to the point. And then after that, it's more of how can you handle this and better yourself so that you don't feel this way again. And it's the rest of the sessions are about you and your character and how much character are you going to expose to your friends, to family, to new people that you meet, and new people that you meet who are also going to welcome into your life as well. How much of your character, because your character is, imagine this fucking cloud is what he taught me. Your personality is this fucking cloud. Now create your boundaries like a box. How much of the size of a box are you going to show your family? And then how much of your character in this box are you going to show your friends? And then how much of your character in this box are you going to show other people, new people? So that's what I learned in therapy. And then it was about the fourth or fifth one. He says, so why are you still coming? But I don't know. I thought it was a weekly thing. I thought I was supposed to come every week. And he goes, you can stop whenever you want. You don't have to come here anymore.
That's cool. That's
because
a good
point,
therapist.
At this point, we're just repeating ourselves here. You're just wasting your money. And I was like, okay. And I think that session was maybe like 20 or 30 minutes. He goes, I think we're good here. But if you ever have something come up, give me a call. I'll answer. So
that's a good therapist. But you know what the other sad thing is too? Most Americans just want validation. So they'll keep going to a therapist until they get validated as well.
I want the guy from Good Will Hunting. I want Robin Williams. If I ever do therapy, I want Robin Williams from Good Will Hunting.
Good talk, man. I don't even know how we got on that subject.
Yeah, that got deep. That was spicy.
That's the bro science,
baby. That's the bro science, man.
That's the bro science. That's how we do here, Savvy. We just bullshit our way through.
Fuck yeah.
2.5 hours.
Every single episode, we wind up in a different sector of the bro science. And I love it. It just happens organically.
Last week we were talking about Hagen. This week we're talking about trauma.